We've all noticed that with our cultural warriors, the demands keep on multiplying. One is met, another pops up. It has to be this way. It has to be this way in every revolution, and that's what we're facing, a cultural revolution. In any revolution, to stop is to die. All the great revolutionaries have lived by this principle. Lenin himself, the great revolutionary, said, "When one makes a revolution, one cannot mark time. One must always go forward or go back." All revolutionaries live by this principle. Never be satisfied. Jerry Rubin, 60s and 70s countercultural icon, said, "Satisfy our demands, and we've got 12 more. The more demands you satisfy, the more we got." We can destroy things in two ways: by full frontal assault, or by undermining the foundations. Culturally, you can destroy something by outlawing it or by eliminating its meaningfulness until it becomes so open it's absurd. Progressives haven't gone all out by outlawing marriage, for instance. Even they are not that stupid. Instead, what they've chosen to do is use the tool of deconstruction. Initially a tool of linguistic analysis, this deeply sceptical theory, which challenges the very notions of truth and objectivity, has, in the hands of progressive culture warriors, become a tool of revolutionary change. Each of an institution's assumptions are picked apart to reveal their supposedly oppressive power structures until all that remains is a hollow shell. The destruction of marriage is now nearly complete. The deconstruction of its economic, emotional and legal aspects has already eroded it as a lasting institution central to the health of society. Now, with the acceptance of same-sex marriage, it is no longer an exclusive institution. Every aspect of marriage is being deconstructed until eventually it will no longer mean anything much at all. The deconstruction of marriage is only part of the deconstruction of sex. Sex has morphed into gender. Sex is biological, verifiable. Gender is malleable, psychological, whatever one chooses it to be. One need only think of Facebook and the 56 choices of gender, and it is a matter of personal choice. In this we have entered the realm of Alice in Wonderland. Alice says, "I knew who I was this morning, but I've changed a few times since then." There is no shadowy cabal of sinister plotters scheming the destruction of society. Instead, the prevailing worldview has emerged that the cultural institutions of the West are oppressive and exploitative, a worldview which sees everyone as a victim. And to combat this oppression, the institutions and conventions which have held society together for centuries must be deconstructed, exposed, rejected as intrinsically wrong and oppressive. The topsy-turvy world of the progressive is one in which everyone but the progressive is a disgusting racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobic, ableist, cultural appropriator, and usually a fascist to boot. A world where the way to combat discrimination is to discriminate, only harder. For the progressive, every group is portrayed as a victim group, with a supposed right to have society changed for their benefit. And if you're a Middle class, pseudo-intellectual, ensconced in the bastions of politically correct privilege which are our universities, and cannot claim genuine victim status, you can invent microaggressions so that you too can rail against and have an opportunity to attack society in a fit of self-righteous indignation. This has led to the bizarre situation whereby our universities, supposedly bastions of intellectual inquiry and free speech, now censor speech in case an oversensitive student imagines they feel offended by something said by another student or lecturer. As Orwell understood in 1984, tyranny is essentially about definitions. Marcello Pera, Italian philosopher and president of the Italian Senate, said, "How can we speak of and defend universal human rights in a cultural climate in which the very idea of truth is under sustained assault? A progressive struggle is not for equality, but against the right to define, the right to have truth." Once each basic value has been undermined and hollowed out, what are we left with? A society that's empty of meaning. And it's at this point that the intellectual elite, those who know best, and it must be true for they keep telling us it's true, they step in and take the rudderless, hopeless society and reshape it in their own image. We are not facing a struggle for the right of equality, but a struggle against the right to define, a struggle against truth, the existence of verifiable truth.